everybody, it is Calxiyn here. We are pleased to announce a new series called What Ifs, where you give us a suggestion that starts with what if blank was different in RWBY. Well, you can only really give us a suggestion if you're a Patreon, of course. That means we'll definitely do it. So let me say thank you to our patrons, Academy Professors Jackson and Edwin, Husband in Training, Emiket, New Recruits Sully, Rooter, Flashy, and Rage Factor 13. So today we are going to start off with what if Yang had blocked Mercury's hit instead of punching him in the leg. That is our prompt for today. And so before we start, let's remember that this isn't too important, but I wanted to write it down, that for the Vital Festival tournament, it's been a while since I think most of us have started, or have watched Volume 3. Also, Hunter, you can change your outfit, you know.
I like this outfit.
Oh, but what a better dress. Okay. Anyway, let's remember that the finalists are Yang, Sun, Mercury, Penny, and Pyrrha, and then the three other people. We don't know who the fuck they are. So, Yang punches Mercury, but if she didn't, okay, so here's the thing. According to the wiki, I was reading the transcripts, the Grimm in Mountain Glen end up feeling the negative emotion of the crowd as they boo at Yang, and then turn their attention towards Vale. So already, I never knew this before, actually, but this has me thinking that it's possible that maybe the Grimm wouldn't have had their sights set on Vale, because every time a negative thing happens regarding Yang, like, they get closer and closer, and you'll see that later, but if it didn't, like, they're already not near the school yet, and you'll see later they get closer when it's in the news, and there's a lot of negativity about it, and so that wouldn't have happened either. So you can kind of see how this is already it's a butterfly effect, right? It's possible that Cinder, Emerald, and Mercury would all be confused and their plan wouldn't go to the immediate next stage, at least not in the same way, because Cinder, like, everything was going well for her, and then Yang comes in and she's like, bitch ass. Like, you know what I mean? So I think that they would be a little startled because Cinder just thought, Hunter's playing, by the way, I just thought I'd tell you that. I just thought that
Am I doing that bad?
No,
that you have to cover your ass?
I just wanted to anyway. So I feel like Cinder would be like a little, well, that didn't go as expected. According to the transcript for the next episode after that one, the emotions from the news story has angered a lot of people, and so the Grimm are outside of Vale near the wall, and the Atlas soldiers are like barely holding them back. So if Yang didn't do this, no one would be outraged, and this would kind of stop the next part of Cinder's plan, because this was obviously part of their plan to get the Grimm near the wall so they could, kind of burst through and everything, and so the only Grimm that would really kind of be inside when the fall of Beacon happened are the ones that they brought in, and obviously, like, with all of the chaos, they would have come if they were around, but the thing is, they're not around the school, and so it would have taken at least for them longer to get there, because Grimm just kind of mindlessly walk in the wild, so who's to say that they couldn't have, you know, walked way outside of Vale, like not even close to the school, because nothing was happening, they weren't interested and they left, right? But we talk about that a bit more later, so stay with me. Yang wouldn't be disqualified, and she wouldn't be stuck in her room all alone. This also means Crow wouldn't have told her about things regarding Raven, because that conversation happens when Yang is in the room after telling the others to go away. She kind of talks to Crow about how she saw her mother after Crow is asking if she's crazy or not. So that's kind of important, because things regarding her mother, like, you know, she probably wouldn't know all that. But that's not the biggest chain reaction here. We can debate this, and we kind of do, but I think that it would mean that Yang and the others would go see the fight between Penny and Pyrrha. Obviously, for some reason, like,
I'm enjoying this.
Weiss and Blake don't care. Like, they're sitting outside the food stand or something, but I think that if they were fighting, I think that Yang would go with RWBY, obviously. She would go with her sister to watch, right? And so...
That's a very robust... Oh, finally got him.
Anyway, so I think that RWBY would tell Yang that Mercury was around, because remember, RWBY's alone in the stadium at this point. Like, you know, none of her other teammates are around, but if Yang was there, she'd be like, oh, like, there's some shady shit, because she sees Emerald on the other side, and then she sees Mercury, right? And so I think what would have happened is that Yang would have... RWBY would have, like, or Yang would have explained to them the reason she put her hands up, right? Because she thought that Mercury was gonna attack, because she still saw that, even in this timeline. But by now it would probably be clear to both of them, especially after the conversation with Velvet, which Yang probably would have been a part of because RWBY was talking to Velvet on their way to the stadium. Remember how Velvet says Coco thought she saw Yasuhashi in the forest, but Yasuhashi was already out, so they would have seen already that something fishy's going on with Mercury and Emerald or something, and so we kind of already seen that happening.
Nobody mind that.
Yeah, so Yang and RWBY, and maybe even the rest of the team, but probably just Yang and RWBY, right? They would go after Emerald, right? And then see Mercury in the hallway like usual, and they'd probably kick his ass. You know what I mean? Because Yang kicked his ass before, and RWBY got past him eventually, so both of them together, like, it would be okay. They wouldn't be blocked as a result, and they could get to Emerald before she started the hallucinations. Because seeing how this all happens in the transcript, like, it kind of goes back and forth, but I think I was judging by the time, because you can kind of see how much time is passing based on what Pyrrha and Penny are doing on the outside and how RWBY is fighting Mercury, because it kind of goes back and forth. So I think based on kind of what I saw in the transcript, Emerald starts her hallucinations kind of just as RWBY escapes. And so I think that if RWBY was with Yang, they would have gotten to her, like, way before that, right? And so if Emerald hadn't really started her hallucinations, right, they could get by Mercury and basically stop Emerald before she started this, and Pyrrha wouldn't have seen, like, a million penny swords and rip her into a million pieces. At this point, Cinder would start to get nervous. Like, she had this whole speech ready about Pyrrha dismembering a student. So they would have either Penny or Pyrrha win. I didn't decide, like, which one of them won. And the tournament would just keep going, right? Unless Cinder did still stop the broadcast and was like, okay, like, listen. Like, they're bad guys. I can't show you any proof because my plans are ruined, but too bad we're taking over the school. The Mercury thing is kind of a gamble, but Yang beat him before, so I kind of have confidence in her that they would easily kick his ass in the hallway, whatever. Maybe Cinder could do another speech and execute the attack on Beacon anyway. I feel like she would still go. Like, she would still go nuclear. Like, they're already kind of found out. Like, she would just kind of keep trying, especially because she has half the Fall Maiden powers, you know? She has to keep trying. But no one would think that of Ozpin or Ironwood, right? Or see Pyrrha killing someone, right? Because that was one of her points, that Ozpin was teaching kids to dismember people, and that Ironwood was carrying kind of a soldier disguised as a little girl. Like, no one would know, right? And so that...
We're having a little, like...
Yeah, you guys are all bad.
Is someone else down?
No. You guys would have been... that would have been taken out of her speech, right? She doesn't have the same amount of ammunition before, you know? Maybe in anger, Cinder would set off the attack anyway, but now the kingdoms don't have a reason not to trust each other, right? Because we know that's why the kingdoms are kind of in a bad spot now, because Atlas wasn't, you know, was doing some shady shit, and Vale, like, people didn't see what happened when Vale, like, fell, and so, like, everybody doesn't trust each other, but that wouldn't happen anymore. What happens now is kind of a gamble, but you can see how this would change everything. So Cinder wouldn't be calm and collected anymore. She would kind of be scrambling to make sure something works. And regarding the Grimm, even if there are no emotions to lead them to Vale, because remember I said they were outside of the gate when the newscast was happening. Now they're not outside anymore. So it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's 50-50. Like, I don't know what the Grimm do, you know what I mean? So they could have been, if the fall still happened, right? They could have been attracted again by the negativity going on in the stadium, but they wouldn't be as close. They would have just been wandering outside. You can use your ultimate, you know. Also, other Pyrrha's dead, so you guys are gonna lose if you don't go get her.
Whoops, shoot, everyone's dead.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, come on.
No!
Yes! I thought I saved her in time.
Rip.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there would really be almost no Grimm other than the Grimm they brought in via airship, right? And so maybe the devastation would be less, right? And so I feel like in that regard, you know, they would at least take longer if they're outside of the wall, right? You know what I mean?
Okay, so I think another, like, important part of, I'm going schoolgirl here, is, that sounded strange, is that it introduces the idea of Emerald's semblance. Like, we know what that was before, but
she did have it before, though. It did, it was kind of like, oh, Emerald did this in the past, here can she do it in the future? But we would still see her try, I think, though. She just wouldn't do a great job, right?
I think there wouldn't be the same mistrust amongst the kingdoms, and Beacon might not have fallen at all. There could have sent a lot of help, and especially immediately afterwards. I think the reason why Vale was like continued to be in such disarray is that the other kingdoms wouldn't help him.
Oh yeah, because Glinda's just here like picking everything up by herself, right? And so I agree. I think that like almost the Grimm wouldn't show up at all, and even if they did, like the aftermath. But I think that as we get in here, like our hypothetical future is that Beacon doesn't fall at all, and we'll show you why. But I think Pyrrha would still try to fight Cinder, and Cinder would still try to fight Pyrrha. Like that event would still kind of happen.
But we came up with sort of 3 different ways in which that could happen.
Yeah, and so we're kind of gonna go over that in a minute. So.
And I think this is the most important part.
Yeah, this is what changes literally everything, and so I think you should really pay attention. So, I think that if Penny were still alive, right, she could kind of see Pyrrha as a friend, because she was really honored and humbled and impressed by Pyrrha. And so I think she would either follow Pyrrha on the roof, because Penny can't just shove her in a locker like John, right? Like, Penny could be like, I'm combat ready, fam, like, it's okay. And Pyrrha wouldn't really be able to argue with that, because you just fought her, and depending on Penny won or not, like, you know what I mean? Like, if Penny won, Pyrrha would be like, oh, I guess, like, you can be the fall maiden, here you go, I guess I'm not cut out for this. You know what I mean? Oh, I thought you would laugh at that, you're not. Okay, so they wouldn't really be able to argue with that, right? And so, I think if they both go on the roof, that would stall long enough for RWBY to get there, and maybe 3 of them could beat Cinder. But I also think that if Penny goes with RWBY instead, it kind of works the same way. So, I don't know. Basically, I think that Penny would go with Pyrrha. That's my stronger kind of feeling here.
And there we have sort of 3 options. We have Cinder kills RWBY first, and Silver Eyes never happens, and Cinder's essentially able to kill them all. Or we have Cinder eventually kills Penny. We get a similar reaction from RWBY. Silver Eye occurs. Priya still survives.
Pyrrha.
So,
yeah, as Hunter said, we either get Cinder kills RWBY first, and so Silver Eyes doesn't happen. Like, RWBY's dead, fam. Like, RWBY's gone. Or Silver Eyes...
It's called RWBY now. The show's called RWBY.
Or Silver Eyes happens because of Penny or Pyrrha. So that's kind of interchangeable. But I think that Penny would sacrifice herself to save RWBY, especially in that circumstance. And so in my head, it's Penny. Or, as Hunter said, the last option, the 3 of them do beat Cinder, and Salem's kind of foiled for now. Like, I think Cinder would escape. I think they wouldn't kill her, like, dead, but I think that she would be incapacitated for...
Yep.
Oh, boy. Incapacitated for a while and wouldn't really... Because they can't arrest her, like, she's the fall maiden. Like, what the fuck are they gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, if anything, that would just, like, the school would be okay. Anyway... So, I really like the idea of Penny killing herself to save RWBY and Pyrrha. But this is how things would change, though. Like, how would Pyrrha be affected by the Silver Eyes? Like, we don't know. But if she was up there and like, RWBY did the Silver Eyes, like, maybe she'd get some kind of injury. But anyway... if Beacon didn't fall, like, maybe they could even stay at the school, right? Like, the school wouldn't be in bad condition, and Blake maybe wouldn't have been able to run away, because...
No, I think Blake would have still ran away, because the White Fang was still involved, and I think that's what shamed her into going.
I guess, but, like, remember she brings Yang to the evacuation site, and that's outside of the city? Like, instead, she may have brought Yang into, like, the school's hospital or something, and that would keep her inside of the premises, you know what I mean? I feel like that would keep her more contained. I think you're right, like, Blake still would have left.
And Yang would have still left because she would have still been injured.
Right.
So the only people who changed that, you know,
RWBY and Weiss would probably still stay there.
RWBY and Weiss would... Actually, I don't even know if Weiss would.
I mean, we talked about this when we were kind of making this episode already, but Hunter, if you remember, I said that the reason why Weiss would stay is because her dad came to get her because everything was going to shit. If nothing ever went to shit, they don't have to go get her, right? You know what I mean? Yes?
Mm-hmm.
So here's kind of our idea, is that Penny dies to kind of buy Pyrrha and RWBY a bit more time, or she doesn't, or, you know, I don't think Pyrrha dies in our scenario, though. I think she's very much still okay. So I think we get the narrative that Penny, possibly, Pyrrha, definitely, Jean, Weiss, Ren, and Nora and Ruby would all go to Minstrel together, and Pyrrha wouldn't be dead. Yang and Blake would still have their narratives in Volume 4, but Team Juniper, Ruby, and Weiss would kind of go on their adventure and do their own thing, because Crow would still be like, Silver Eyes, like, oh, you know, I think the enemy's in Minstrel, yo. And they would still probably leave the school, right? Even if school's still in session, I feel like they would... Yeah, because Ozpin's dead, right?
Yeah.
Like, Ozpin's dead, I forgot about that. So they would be like, Glinda be the new headmaster and the school would probably be recovering, but I think it would still be open. Like, I think classes wouldn't be going on, but I think they would still keep the students there because Glinda would be the next headmaster, right? So how, like, going into Volume 4, could they all beat Tyrion?
I mean, no. Probably not. Because when you think about it, is there a huge difference just adding Pyrrha? The only reason why they really made that out by, like, the skin of their teeth was because, man, we are sucking
I
so
know,
hard
you
right
guys
now.
are so bad.
Is because Crow was there.
But I think, though, that Weiss would stop Ruby from interfering with the fight. Because she would be like, listen to your uncle or whatever.
Run.
What do you mean, run?
I mean her. The other. Oh, wow, look at that. Ruby got up.
Yeah, because you respawn, you dumbass. Weiss would stop Ruby from interfering, and maybe Crow wouldn't be poisoned, but also Tyrion's tail would still be okay. Like, I don't know what happened there. Maybe you're right, but I feel like there's 6 of them in this scenario, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that has some importance, you know? And I don't think they could have all beat Tyrion. I think Crow still would have came in and kicked his ass, but I think that Crow wouldn't have gotten hurt because Ruby wouldn't have, you know, like, Weiss would have been like, no, we're gonna listen to your fucking, you know what I mean? Because she is kind of, like, a stickler for the rules. And then Arcos would just continue.
Which also means that Lancaster could never happen.
Oh my god.
Which I'm very happy about.
The other thing that...
Fucking again?
Yeah.
Oh, I suck.
You're so bad! Oh my god.
No.
The other thing, though, is that Cinder would get made fun of more by Watts, right? And Salem probably would have been, like, on his side since she fucked up. You know what I mean? Because last time Watts made fun of her for, like, losing to Ruby, Salem was like, she had the fall of Beacon. She killed Ozpin. But if Beacon never fell, and sure, Ozpin's dead, like, Salem would have been like, you fucking idiot. Like, she would have been like, oh, I guess we'll just go to Minstrel now, because with Lionheart, it's gonna be so much easier since we got him in our pocket. Like, I guess you babies can't handle taking down Beacon. I guess I'll have to spoon feed you this time. Like, I feel like Salem would be, like, really angsty. You know what I mean? Do this one. No!
Health.
No! That wasn't health!
What was it?
What
What are you doing?
I'm showing you what it was!
Well, what was it?
I don't know. How did you
can just
open
tell
that?
me.
I don't know what it was, though. I
can't
need to see. I don't know what it was. But it wasn't health. Click it. Click back into your skills again. I don't remember.
No, I'm not gonna.
No, click back into your
It was
skills.
a big heart. My god.
Oh my god, look at it. Go look at it. Tell me what it says.
I'm not gonna fucking. Oh my god.
Tell me what it says. Look. You survive more damage after your aura is depleted. It's not more health. It's just
Yes,
defense.
it is. That's more health.
No, it's not.
You last longer in.
If your aura
Talk
is
about
depleted,
the
that means you
theory.
just take less damage. Whatever. Anyway, Hunter is bad at this game because if you had another ultimate pool, you could beat them better. You need to be a glass cannon, okay? Anyway, that's pretty much it, guys. I think we both created a very good idea here. We did work together on this beforehand, if you guys couldn't tell. But yeah, is there anything else? Because, you know, I feel like Cinder would just get shit on by Watts. And, like, Salem would be like, you disappointed me.
I think the most likely thing to happen would be Penny, Pyrrha, and Ruby would all die.
No!
Like, and then, like, shit would be bad. Which I think is ironic that, you know...
See, Hunter's pessimistic.
A small victory in the shorthand would lead to, you know, disaster in the long hand.
But I gave you guys the 3 options. Like, I think one of them dying, either Pyrrha or Penny, is more likely.
I mean,
right?
I think unless Ruby goes first, you know.
Well, I don't know if Ruby would go. Like, see, there's a lot of variables to this.
Chance,
I guess.
And
But
if that 1 in 3 chance, like, look, think about RWBY, think about Pure, and think about
I
Penny.
basically...
Who do you think is, like, the weakest? Who do you think is gonna die first?
I basically explained one linear track, though, where either all 3 of them beat Cinder or 2 of them beat Cinder, right? You know what I mean?
Because we know what happens if they all die.
Yeah, exactly. They all die. But you know, I think we did good here. I think this is gonna be a fun series to do. There are just so many variables and so many things to look at. I was like surfing through so many transcripts, like literally, you know, forever, just to make sure that, like, I started at the event and then I kept going outwards all the way to the end. Not to the end of Volume 4, but just as much into Volume 4 as I thought that we needed to go. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So anyway, guys, we'll see you later. Thanks again to patrons on Patreon, Academy Professor Jackson and Edwin, Huntsman in Training, Emmy Catch New Recruits, Solly, Flashy, Rage Factor, and Solly. So yeah, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this one. We're gonna enjoy doing it for you, and yeah, we'll see you later. Bye!